I wanted to talk a little bit about some aspect of meditation that we don't often think about. And the Buddha never talked about really, he didn't use the word patience, like having patience in life, patience in our activities, and patience in the way we live. But when we look at patience, we really realize that it's a part of being mindful. It's a part of checking in all the time, like why am I not being a little bit more laid back, I guess, in many of our activities and in what we're doing, and having a little bit of patience with ourselves and with other people too. If you're like, you mothers know how important patience is, when you're raising kids, and when you're trying to figure out something. Yesterday we were on the airplane, and those earplugs that we had got all twisted up, and it took a while to really, I mean, they were all a big ball, a big mess. I was trying to untie the knots and get them all unsorted so that we could listen to these to this movie on an airplane as we were flying back here. And the old saying, you have the patience of a saint, came out. Terry said that, and I thought, well, that's interesting, that little phrase, how that came about, patience of a saint. But I think it's good representation. Like a lot of times when we're working with something, like untying a shoelace or something like that, and we're in a hurry, how frustrating it can be. And we just kind of check in and ask ourselves, what's going on? What is this all about? Why am I not being patient in the moment? And in a way, meditation is really a training ground for that. I've had, some people in different groups. I remember one particular woman, she was sitting in the back of the room, got done meditating, and I asked, how the meditation was, and this particular woman said it was the hardest thing she's ever done, to be able to sit in 30 minutes, or even less than 30 minutes in silence. And I guess she was never, in my mind, I don't remember how a conversation went, but it seemed like she was new to meditation, She's never had that training before. She's never really had the opportunity to check in and see why there was any kind of anxiety or a lack of patience, with the practice with herself. And so when we check in, if we're talking with somebody else, for example, and we have that feeling of patience, like we got to get going, this person's wasting my time, or we have a lack of patience in traffic when we're driving around, we can't get where we're wanting to go as fast as we want to go, and of course we're the main person on the highway. We have to get there quicker than anybody else. And really, it's an inner thing. It's that inner patience inside. That ability to be able to say that I am patient, or I can be patient, or to notice when we're not patient. Very, very important. And so again, I think meditation is a wonderful training ground for that. How you doing, Joe?
Hi, Joe.
Yeah. So, in a moment, we will do a meditation, and that'll kind of be the theme. See if we have everybody here that's here are not new meditators. So, I'm kind of like speaking to the choir in a way, But there's always times in our life when we feel like we could use more patience, in what we do. And some of that seems to come with age, but not always, you know. A child, you know, when we tell them that they can have that cookie after they do their homework or whatever it might be, you know, there's it seems kind of silly to us, but for the child it's very serious stuff. You know, they want that cookie now. They don't have that patience, you know. Just an example, but there's a lot of adults that really have a lack of patience because they don't realize that there is that lack, or that how important patience is and what it's all about. So this meditation, we will, as I normally do, I'll be guiding it. I'll be talking a little bit more about this magic word, patience, and you know how we can use patience within our life, and to kind of to trust it and to notice it and to use it. So please make yourself comfortable. Just allow the eyes to close. Just take a moment and to check your surroundings. Check the sounds in the room, outside of the room. And check how you feel within. Is there a level of comfort and relaxation? Is there any level of anxiety or being incomplete in the moment for some reason? As we sit and meditate, we'll likely notice that the thoughts of how we feel and what is happening will hopefully subside, and that we'll have a deeper level of comfort, a deeper level of stillness in the mind and body. It's not always working that way, but that's the ideal situation. And with that deeper level of stillness of mind and body, we can also look at that as a deeper level of having patience with ourselves and the world that we live in. And everything that's happening, all the activity that has happened throughout our day and throughout our weeks, all the moments of the past, and really how they've controlled and set us up for what is happening right now for us. Whether we can look at ourselves as a patient person, somebody that's very still-minded, or somebody that is impatient. The key is really noticing and being really loving towards ourselves in a deeper way, because of that understanding that we need within our lives to be considered a patient person by ourselves or even by others. We've all noticed moments when there was a lack of patience. Sometimes it might have been embarrassing for us and sometimes hurtful for another person. And hopefully we've all noticed moments where we had a great deal of patience. Perhaps when we were listening to somebody. Perhaps when we're working out some difficult task where it seemed like it took a long time, and we noticed within ourselves that we had patience for it, or another person noticed. So patience is considered a very good trait. It's something that coincides with mindfulness, with concentration, with an open heart and a compassionate person. And so we owe it to ourselves to notice when these moments of impatience happen for ourselves. And it's just really a noticing. It's in the words. It's a part of restlessness and worry. And it's even a part of aversion, these hindrances. Part of the 5 hindrances of aversion and restlessness and worry. And oftentimes it can even be a part of sloth and torpor, or when there is fatigue involved. When we're tired, when we're hungry, when we're find ourselves to be cranky or impatient, these are really times that we notice that there are hindrances in our lives. And so we can notice these within our meditation. And in fact, any time that we are impatient, it's a reflection of our meditation practice. We often think of somebody that is very grounded in life, very grounded in their spiritual practice, as being a very patient person. When we think of people like the primary teachers in the world, like Buddha and Jesus, and we often consider these people as being very, very patient. Very patient in their teachings and in their way of life. And so patience is really a part of reminding ourselves that there is time. Time to listen, and time to sit, time to meditate. Time to be the spectator of what is happening in our world. Just noticing. So in meditation, when we find ourselves as being a non-spectator, but more of somebody that is just noticing what is coming up, what is noticing, what is arising. Not getting involved with the passing of the thoughts. Not getting involved with the ideas of what is not working out for us or for others. But just noticing how we react and how others react. And so that is a part of being patient as well. Being the observer of everything that is happening. A patient observer. May each one of us and all beings be well, happy, and peaceful. May no harm come to us. May no difficulties come to us. May we all meet with spiritual and worldly success. And may we have the patience, the courage, and the understanding to meet and overcome any problems or any difficulties that we might face in life. Thank you all. Very, very quiet meditation. I think the rain helps quiet things down out there or something. It was very quiet. Of course, I say that a lot in this room, but I really mean it tonight. So the theme was patience, or is patience. You know, having patience in our life and our practice, and how our practice of meditation kind of points to that, you know, that ability to be patient. And points to the ability, you know, when we're not patient, of, you know, what that means for us too. What's the opposite of patience? Is there a word that we could?
I would say recklessness.
Recklessness? It's a good one.
Of course, it's impatience, but
Impatience.
too easy.
Yeah, that's a given, right? It's a given. Anxious, you know, might be.
Or even agitated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good one too. So there's a whole array of things, you know, and patience kind of falls into the area of being relaxed in the moment, you know, being cool. You know, we don't hear that word a lot these days, but cool, man, play it cool. But I think where we find the patience the most is in the present moment, you know, when we're very present. As far as the mind darting into the past and into the future and things like that, usually we have trouble finding patience in that moment. Let's say we're talking with somebody and we have some place to be, you know, and we can, it's really a way of seeing ourselves, and that we want to be someplace in the future, but this person is holding us up, talking to us, you know, and so we feel impatient, you know, this lack of patience, you know, talking with this person, like they're holding us up from someplace we want to be. So it's really thoughts of the future, where we should be in the future. And sometimes when we think about the past and how the past has made trouble for us, it's really a lack of patience, you know, that on the part of us and the part of others, that kind of made our past a difficult situation. But if we can still use the past, you know, as a tool to bring about this patience by remembering times when we were impatient and why we were, if you know what I mean. You know, when were some moments where we were just like, you know, like this, basically, you know, not able to be open, you know, to the situation. And those are the moments of having impatience in our life, for the most part. And sometimes there's small moments, and sometimes there's big moments. You know, a small moment of impatience is when we're at a red light and we have to be someplace. We don't even look at it, you know, like as our impatience. And then there's those, you know, larger moments when we are maybe caring for an elderly person in our life, and we want to be someplace, you know, we want to be doing something. We might want to be in a different area or in a different place in our entire life, in our entire being, but we feel kind of grounded or stuck, actually. You know, stuck in a place or, you know, a situation, and it could be for years, you know, that we feel very impatient about the situation. Anybody have anything to share about impatience? I know it's not the most splendid topic, to talk about, but anything come up in the mind while we're talking about it, while it's happening?
Yeah, I think impatience was one of the biggest things I had to overcome when I started meditation, to tell you the truth, because I wanted to be able to lock into it right here, right now. And I have a wandering mind just by nature, I guess.
Yeah.
So.
You wanted that perfect meditation, just like
Yeah.
the meditation itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so much of a big part of the practice. That I think that's why more people don't practice meditation. It's because they don't have the patience for it. Very seldom do I meet somebody that really, really has a lot of impatience and that is attempting to be a good meditator. It is possible, and it's a life-changing experience for people. But to meet somebody that has a consistent practice of meditation and that would call themselves a very impatient person, the two don't mix at that same time. But to be in a situation where, I can say that I was very impatient before I started really, doing a consistent practice in meditation. I remember the first time I sat down in meditation, I didn't last more than a couple of minutes. I didn't have the time. Just was not my cup of tea, And so I got up and I thought, well, this is great, maybe a great practice, but I just have too many things to do. And the next morning I did it again, and it lasted a little bit longer. And then I did it again and again and again and again. And those things that I had to get done, I eventually, in my mind, they were put on hold, and that was fine. But before that, the impatience of doing something, the impatience of wanting something, something now, like that perfect meditation, to see those benefits of meditation. That's a very good example, Tim, because I think that happens to a lot of people, and then they don't stick with it. They don't come back to the meditation practice. They find something else.
Well, I think the one thing about, especially the breath meditation, if I'm in a situation where I can just pause for that second and concentrate on the breath, and then it gives me an opportunity to be more mindful in the situation that may be stressful.
Mm-hmm.
I used impatience as a guard against incredible stressful events. And it's a lifestyle choice, or it could be the environment that I found myself in.
Yeah.
So, at 58 years old, I can exact incredible patience right now just because of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've passed all those years, and I'm no longer running up the hills anymore. I'm just pondering them at this point. So, I'm fortunate in that respect. However, I think the patience part is more internal. That I'm more patient with myself,
Mm-hmm.
my limitations, and out of that patience comes the opportunities that I missed by not being patient with myself and looking at those limitations and saying, well, I can no longer do that anymore. So what's available now?
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, that's all I got.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah. The idea of it seems like we're being patient with other people or patient with other situations, but it's always, it's always comes back to be internal, like what's happening in here, And that's why it's such a mindful practice, to notice these times when we are impatient, or to visit those times when we weren't, and to look at why that wasn't. There's a practice called timeline therapy. I don't know if you ever heard about it, but it is it's a part of hypnotherapy in such a way that there's a little bit of a trance involved, and it's usually somebody closing their eyes and remembering an incident that happened in the past, and then that person kind of floats past that instant and lands in their mind. They come to that moment right before it happened. Like a moment of anger or a moment of something fearful or something like that. And so that person comes right before that, and they can see their reaction and how they walked, how they came into that moment and noticed that moment. And I think a lot of times if we do that, even for a lot of the many of the the very simple things that kind of cause problems for us or embarrassments for us, we'll see that it was as a result of having impatience in the moment, and that we were just kind of thrust ourselves into this this moment of unclarity, anxiety, and just being incomplete with the situation and kind of messing things up for ourselves, or for others, I should say, too. Usually fits of rage and anger have something to do with impatience, being impatient with what is happening. It can happen very, very quick, like that, but I think when we review it, we'll see that it was impatience, and what triggered that, how did that come about? And it is the meditation practice that itself, and among other things, that can help us see all of this. Did you say?
It seems like impatience is definitely, I never really thought about it before, it's definitely tied into at least 3 of the 5 hindrances.
Yeah.
You're impatient, you're definitely experiencing that desire, you're wanting something to change, something to be different than what it is. Or as you just pointed out with anger, but definitely, and I think you said earlier too, with the restlessness and worry, you're not right there, you're in the future, because I have to get this, I have to find out what this diagnosis is, I have to find, it's just all this stuff that's in the future. So it's definitely super tied into at least 3 of the hindrances.
And the as I mentioned earlier, the sloth and torpor, if a person's is tired, or hungry or something, there's going to be some impatience there, or there could very likely well be. Yeah.
Doubt, is it tied into doubt? No. I hadn't thought about that.
I think that's one of my greatest gifts, actually, is I give other people the opportunity to practice patience.
Yeah. That's very kind of you.
That was excellent.
I don't know about Tim, he's not as bad as he thinks. But I like to run with him.
Running with the devil. Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like when I was beginning to mention it this evening, that word isn't used a lot spiritually. The Buddha didn't, as far as I know, the Buddha didn't use the word impatience, as a single cause for any kind of problems or anything like that. But I think it can be really seen as a lack of mindfulness in many ways. I mean, it is definitely a lack of mindfulness, that impatience. So it all ties in, kind of in our modern world. I don't know where the word came from. I didn't even know I was going to be talking about it tonight until I sat down. But it's interesting. I think it teaches us a lot. It's a big part of our practice. Impatience. I hear people say all the time that I do not have the patience for that or this or that. I could never do that. I don't have the patience for it. How many times have we heard that kind of talk? I hear it a lot when it comes to meditation. When I talk, people ask me what I do for a living. I tell them I teach meditation, and they say, "Yeah, I've tried that once, and it doesn't work for me." And what does that mean? It means that they just simply didn't give themselves a chance. They didn't have give themselves the patience to try it. Meditation will work for anybody. We know that. Again, I'm singing to the choir here, talking to the choir. But meditation will work for anybody. I mean, if they don't have the patience for it, they learn the patience, and it changes everything.
Do you think there's an element of commitment in patience?
Yeah, that's very good. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of there's elements. I think there's a lot of elements and many elements in patience. It can be a learned trait. If we hung out with people that had a lot of patience, we would kind of see that. We could learn that. It's a part of mindfulness. If we know that we aren't impatient and we want to be impatient, I think it has a lot to do with it. I think it's a big, really quite a huge thing in our lives. Well, thank you for everybody for coming in this rainful, blistering, cooled evening, and we'll do it again. Thank you so much.